can be then brought to the public so that people can learn about these modalities? Because I think that it seems to me that there's generally an attempt to divert people's attention from it by the establishment, not by people.
By 2011, I was top of the heap. National Institute of Drug Abuse considered my model as a Massachusetts model. There are 4 models in the country: Minnesota model, Florida model, Pennsylvania model, and Massachusetts model. These are national models.
Right.
Mine is through primary care, and others are through 28-day programs. So basically, I disrupted the architecture of the way.
And your model, which was, again, statistically proven to be more effective than the more established model, you were on the cusp of breaking out nationally and really addressing this problem that our federal government, since George H.W. Bush has told us that we have to have this war on drug abuse. You were there on the front lines solving a problem and doing it with very little cost, I might add.
That's right.
I mean, and you know, for people who are accusing you of trying to make a buck here, you really weren't. I mean, you know, you made a living, but I'm just saying this wasn't a matter of your, you know, the way the media portrayed this, or, you know, defrauding Medicaid and this sort of thing. The books show that wasn't what was going on.
Right. It's very hard to defraud because the Medicaid comes in every 6 months to inspect your books. I had 36 audits over the course of my practice from 1995 to 2011. They were in my office every few months. So it's very hard to, because it's an open society.
Yeah.
We had to open our books, and we shared everything we had. They went to our places, went to our offices, met with our staff, we inspect our laboratories. We got full inspection reports every year. So it's very hard to do anything.
So the books are a matter of public record. Your income is a matter of public record. The profit that your agency, that your clinics made, the record shows that you reinvested it back into the company to build more clinics. And that you were treating people, again, this was already 2012, 2011, before you know what hit the fan. I mean, this was, you were treating people in all major centers in Massachusetts for drug addiction and doing a yeoman's job of it. I mean, you could show and demonstrate success.
We had $20 million in income. We had 370 employees. We had $9.9 million in payroll and $7.7 million invested in real estate. Right. To host the patients. And so all of the monies were channeled back into the communities where they came from. So nothing was taken out from the state at all.
Until, of course, Martha Coakley and her special interests swooped in and put you out of business. Now we have, again, a situation where drug addiction has gone up and people are suffering as a result. I mean, again, I am just outraged by this, and I hope that I want you to let our viewers know how they can help and how they could get involved.
My story is being told by Chalcedon. Maybe you want to hold it up.
This is a magazine that covered your stories.
Covered the story.
By this Chalcedon Institute.
Chalcedon.edu, and the phone number to call is 1-800-770-1904. And
repeat that number again.
1-800-770-1904.
Now, is there a website or anything people can go to?
There's a website, kishorestory.info.
So if you put in Kishore into your
story, yeah.
Or even just put in Dr. Kishore, Kishore, you'll get information in terms of how to help your case. Anyways, I want to thank everybody for joining me this afternoon. We're getting to it. We still have a little time left. Dr. Ouellette, just talk a little bit about your involvement here. After the break. We'll be right back.
Okay.
Thank you. Sorry about pain management.
What's that?
Pain management, how we use holistic methods.
Absolutely.
If you want to be a parent, it doesn't matter how you play, what you wear, how you dance, or even what direction life takes you. You just need to be there. You don't have to be perfect to be a perfect parent. Thousands of teens in foster care don't need perfection. They just need you.
If you drive buzzed, it could cost you around $10,000. You'll face major legal fees, major fines, and steep insurance penalties. You could lose everything. Buzzed, busted, and broke, because buzz driving is drunk driving.
And we are back. Thank you very much. Dr. Kishore, Dr. Ouellette, we're talking about your method for helping treat people with addictions. We talked a little bit about what happened in Massachusetts with how they shut you down. I want to get back to the subject of actually treating people with addictions. It's something that we all care about. Dr. Ouellette, talk a little bit about pain management, which is an issue that there's been some major medical advances over the past maybe decade with regard to how people can deal with pain.
Yes, I'm glad you brought that up. Well, pain is something that virtually everyone in the population deals with at some point. You know, chronic pain affects nearly 100% of our population, and for many individuals, it ends up being the gate by which they enter the misery of addiction. They go and a well-intentioned doctor who is trying to help his patient starts prescribing painkillers, and the next thing you know, the person becomes addicted to those particular painkillers, and their life gets totally warped out of any kind of balance. One thing I wanted to say is that Dr. Kishore's method really recognized all the aspects of the very, very complicated disease that is addiction and alcoholism. You know, the spiritual element, the social element, and the physical element, which is what I was dealing with when I worked with Dr. Kishore. Dr. Kishore would regularly have chiropractors in all of his clinics that provided total drug-free treatment to get right to the cause of the person's pain, to treat it and not mask the pain by using other medications, but to physically correct it through physical modalities, using spinal manipulation, electrical acupuncture, physical therapy techniques, exercise, and recognizing all the other modalities that are out there, like mindfulness, yoga, meditation, relaxation techniques, encouraging people to go and seek help through self-help groups, joining AA, NA, or whatever other types of support networks were out there. And he really put all of that together when he came up with his model, and that was why his clinics really took off from a one-room clinic that he and I started in across from St. Elizabeth's Hospital in Brighton, where he had over 50 clinics here in Massachusetts successfully dealing with addiction and alcoholism. So
rather than do the conventional modality of medicine, which is to mask the pain through a controlled substance, you got to the root of what caused the pain and helped readjust the body, helped readjust with mild kind of non-invasive type medications, all perfectly legal and over-the-counter, by the way. We're not talking about some hoodoo substance here. We're talking about stuff that's available.
Absolutely.
And that you have a success rate in terms of helping people address the real problem. When you give somebody OxyContin, they might feel good temporarily because it distracts the body and it masks the problem, and it's certainly appropriate in certain conditions. If someone is in acute pain, you know, they're having surgery. I mean, I think that there's, in a sense, a marriage between conventional medicine and alternative. But on the bigger picture, you're addressing the whole body. You're addressing the fact that these substances are very addictive, and you're offering an alternative that's been proven to have worked.
Absolutely, and you hit on some really key points. You know, the analogy that I've always used with patients is that, you know, when you have pain, it's like a warning sign of the body. So the analogy I used to use is, you know, it's like the smoke detector in your home. If a fire breaks out in your home and the smoke detectors go off, do you put out the fire, or do you take the batteries out of the smoke detector so they don't go off anymore?
Sure.
And that's basically what it does. You know, if you turn off the pain signals and mask it, then it doesn't address the problem. I know this program isn't about chiropractors, but that's historically what chiropractors have done, is go in, find out what's wrong mechanically and fix it in order to have the person have a more complete state of wellness and eliminate the pain naturally. What Dr. Holder down in Miami Beach did was he took that concept one step further through some of the work by a French neurologist who figured out that the body, when it's developing embryologically, the three types of tissue, the mesoderm, the endoderm, and the ectoderm, interlap and fold over, and there's a complete map of the human body within the human ear that's called the homunculus. And by accessing that through a little electric acupuncture machine, he was able to treat all kinds of chronic pain and balance the body naturally. And so he took that along with the use of nutrition at the Exodus Treatment Center, and he set up a program to train acupuncturists, chiropractors, medical doctors, osteopaths, how to treat addiction without the use of any narcotics or any prescribed medicine whatsoever, and he's been very successful in that.
That's incredible.
Yeah, it really is.
Yeah, and you'd think that somebody who is dealing with addiction, someone who's dealing with anxiety, especially a younger person, before going through with conventional medications, it is incumbent upon you to try and look at all aspects of the problem, including nutrition, including alternative medicines, and including trying to address the problem only as a last resort from a drug perspective.
Exactly.
I'm not here to say that that should never be done.
Right, I agree.
But it should be, we all have to be advocates of our own health and wise consumers, and we should consider the least invasive approaches first and really try them, because oftentimes you could find out that someone might be prone to addiction because they have a simple issue of malnutrition and they don't even know it.
It's true, and we all have that tendency. And getting to the point when someone has crossed that invisible line and they have sort of submerged into the disease of addiction, it's a very difficult process, and people really struggle, and it's devastating to their lives. It's completely upending. They lose their homes, they lose their jobs, their families, everything else, and physically they feel really poorly. Right now, I volunteer 1 day a week at the Recovery Center in Marlborough, and the people who come in, they're in early recovery, and they just they feel lousy. And in order to make them feel better, when I finish working on them, maybe it makes them feel somewhat better, and that may just make the difference between them having the urge to go out and use again just because they feel so badly, or instead of picking up a pill, picking up the phone, call their sponsor, and keep one more day of sobriety. It really comes down to that sometimes.
So you're addressing the root problem that led to the tendency toward addiction rather than masking the problem with some kind of a drug.
Right.
Now, given the fact that Dr. Kishore's clinics were shut down by the state,
right,
where can people go now if they have a problem of addiction? I mean, is there any alternative now, or are they stuck with methadone?
Well, there still are the same avenues out there, but they're much more limited. And the ironic part to me, looking at it as objective as I can, is that the problem has come much more into the forefront. Last year, the governor of Vermont basically spoke his entire state of the state address on the heroin problem in the state of Vermont. These kind of things are out there happening, and they're looking for answers. There's many national recovery sites that are seeking input and looking for new ways to treat addiction. And ironically, here's a man who put together a program that was so successful that he treated literally tens of thousands of people, and the state found a way to shut him down. It doesn't make any sense. It really doesn't.
No, but now we have a new governor in Massachusetts, Charlie Baker, and it's a new regime, hopefully a new attitude. He has said that the opioid addiction problem is one of his top priorities. We have a mayor of Boston who himself, as I mentioned, is a former addict. I mean, that's his own